Tonight, Alberta launches multiple investigations after CBC News first reveals vulnerable patients being sent to live in hotels.
That's something that government really ought to have been vigilant about.
The province acknowledges a huge gap in the system as yet another family shares its story. What we now know about the ISIS group behind the Moscow attack. Tonight, we reveal a possible Canadian connection.
Do you think the RCMP is aware of this?
Yes, well, it's hard to tell.
And the not-so-sweet price jump that could take a bite out of your Easter chocolate.
We're struggling to make ends meet without increasing prices to the point where they're no longer affordable.
From CBC News, this is The National with Heather Hiscox.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Adrian is on assignment. Alberta is promising urgent new action tonight after CBC News first revealed that some vulnerable patients were being discharged to hotels instead of properly staffed care facilities. The province says it's launching several investigations and says it will regulate agencies like the one that put people in those hotels. Julia Wong first broke this story for us. And as she shows us tonight, after her reporting, the province is now acknowledging what it calls a huge gap in the system.
More than 24 people, many vulnerable, some discharged from hospital, were sent to this hotel, including Chris Semkin's nephew, who is autistic and has high needs.
Initially shocked on the news reports, I was very concerned.
Now, the province says the vast majority of the group has been moved to an apartment building and is getting proper support.
Over the past 72 hours, Alberta Health and AHS arranged for a mobile health unit, which included a nurse practitioner and paramedic, to offer on-site assessments to all clients.
The Alberta government is launching 4 investigations into the agency that put people into the hotel, Contentment Social Services. The government will look at possible elder abuse and neglect and possible misuse of government income supports and more. And says the government,
I've instructed Alberta Health Services and any of my department not to interact with this particular agency.
Alberta's action comes after CBC News first broke the story more than a week ago of Blair Caniff, who had been in hospital waiting for a care home and wound up at a travel lodge instead. The Alberta government is now looking at regulating agencies like Contentment.
Why didn't the government have oversight on this to start with?
So they're saying, hey, come live with us here or come live with our organization and we will provide services beyond housing. That is relatively new for what has taken place in the province, and that's why we're going to look at regulating that gap.
This health law expert says the province is fixing a problem it created.
And this case really illustrates the challenges with discharging patients and the fact that that's something that government really ought to have been vigilant about.
Chris Semkin says more oversight is clearly necessary.
Hopefully they take care of it now and actually see to it that these people are taken care of properly.
So, Julia, when are we expecting these new regulations to be in place?
So there's no firm timeline as of right now. We do know that cabinet ministers say it may require legislation, and they're working on some draft options. And the province has committed to making the findings of these 4 investigations public. As for Contentment Social Services, I reached out to them today for a reaction and was told no comment. Heather.
Julia, thank you very much. For the first time since the start of the Israel-Hamas war, the United Nations Security Council is calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Sasha Petrusik now with the vote and the fallout.
No sign of a ceasefire in Gaza. No stop to the intense fighting around Al-Shifa Hospital in the south. Israel's army says hundreds of Hamas fighters have been barricading inside, hiding among patients. Fleeing Palestinians call Israel the aggressor. It's a day of horror for us, she says, after her husband was detained by Israeli soldiers while visiting her sick father.
Will those in favor of the draft resolution?
It's that fighting that the UN Security Council is pushing to stop, with an overwhelming vote calling for an immediate ceasefire during Ramadan, as well as for Hamas to release all Israeli hostages. But the twist?
Abstention.
The U.S. abstained for the first time since the war began, choosing not to use its veto to shield Israel from diplomatic pressure.
This must signal the end of this assault of atrocities against our people.
Israel reacted angrily, rejecting the resolution, blasting the council for not denouncing Hamas.
Israel did not start this war, nor did Israel want this war.
Angry with the U.S. abstention, Israel canceled upcoming meetings with Washington.
We're kind of perplexed by this.
The White House insists U.S. policy has not changed, but there has been a clear rift with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over rising civilian casualties.
It seems like the Prime Minister's office is choosing to create a perception of daylight here when they don't need to do that.
Besides, says Washington, the best way to stop fighting and free hostages is not through the UN, but with a negotiated deal at talks in Qatar. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
In Russia, the number of dead is nearing 140 from Friday's attack on a concert hall. More of the accused appeared in court today. Vladimir Putin now says the gunmen were, quote, radical Islamists. Briar Stewart takes a closer look tonight at the group that has claimed responsibility, ISIS-K.
The faces of the 4 alleged gunmen tell the story of their arrest and what happened afterwards. They appeared in court, bruised, beaten, and barely conscious. Late Monday, 3 others also appeared, accused of being complicit in the attack on a Moscow concert hall that left more than 130 dead. For the first time, Russia's president described the attackers as radical Islamists, but suggested Ukraine and the West could also have been involved. This atrocity may be just a link in a whole series of attempts by those who've been at war with our country since 2014, he said. The group ISIS-K, an offshoot of Islamic State, has claimed responsibility. It carried out a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport in 2021 and recently staged attacks in Iran and Turkey. Germany says it stopped the group from targeting a cathedral on New Year's Eve, and France's president said police there had also foiled planned attacks. We have offered to increase cooperation with Russia's intelligence services and our partners in the region, said Emmanuel Macron. France raised its terror threat to the highest level, and Italy has stepped up security ahead of Easter.
So we are seeing an upscaling by ISIS operations.
This international terrorism expert says Russia is a target of jihadi groups in part because it fought in Syria alongside the government against ISIS.
With the expansion of ISIS-K, they have been increasingly trying to tap into communities in Central Asia, but also Central Asian communities in Russia. And the way they go about doing it is predominantly online through encrypted messaging apps.
The suspected gunmen are all from Tajikistan. Russia has said they were arrested on the way to Ukraine. Ukraine and the U.S. have dismissed attempts to try and link Kyiv to the attack as propaganda. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
And CBC News is revealing a potential Canadian connection to ISIS-K.
He was able to operate on a very massive global public forum, public scale for months.
We'll have the exclusive details in just a few moments on The Breakdown as we dig deeper into the roots and the goals of ISIS-K. Canada says it now has a plan to get Canadian citizens out of Haiti, announcing helicopter flights to start immediately. The country is seized by escalating gang violence and deep in a political crisis. Gun battles and kidnappings are common, and the airport has come under attack. That means a critical exit point is cut off. Evan Dyer now with Canada's new evacuation plan that on day one has already hit a snag.
These Americans left their homes in Port-au-Prince in a convoy, driving through a city that's about 90% controlled by heavily armed criminal gangs.
We have 3 flights, helicopter flights, leaving today. We have 4 that are planned for tomorrow.
The flights, organized by the U.S. government, brought evacuees to the Dominican Republic. But so far, the only Canadians able to get out were those who arranged their own evacuations. David Rochelot's company paid tens of thousands to fly him to safety. Now Canada says it has a plan to get Canadians out and was going to airlift 18 on Monday.
We were all ready to go, and unfortunately the weather on the Dominican side, the helicopters coming from the Dominican Republic was not very good, heavy rain and wind. So as a result, we decided to postpone the operation for the safety of everybody.
The ambassador says they'll try again Tuesday, but there are limits on who can fly.
Only Canadian citizens who have a valid Canadian passport will be eligible for this assisted departure.
We've been married for 43 years.
That means Tom Adamson would be eligible, but not his wife.
I'm not willing to leave without her.
Most of the nearly 3,000 Canadians registered in Haiti have seen troubles before, and they aren't all lining up to escape.
This list is currently less than 100 people, with less than 30 Canadians interested in leaving immediately.
But even longtime residents like Adamson are thinking of getting out.
A lot of people we know are leaving. I don't see the situation in Haiti resolving itself anytime soon.
The Foreign Affairs Minister says Canada has moved officials to both the Dominican Republic and Martinique to prepare the ground for more evacuees and are working on a solution for families that include members who don't have Canadian passports. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
There's a major leadership shakeup at Boeing. The aircraft manufacturer says its CEO will step down at the end of the year.
We have another mountain to climb. Let's not avoid what happened with Alaska Air.
Dave Calhoun is one of 3 top executives leaving the company. He and Boeing have been facing intense scrutiny ever since a panel blew off a plane in January midair. There's been a series of other mishaps, including earlier this month when a wheel fell off a Boeing aircraft shortly after takeoff. You're looking here at drone footage from above the Los Angeles home of Sean Diddy Combs, one of 2 of his properties reportedly raided by federal Homeland Security agents as part of an ongoing investigation. Combs is facing a number of lawsuits, including allegations of sex trafficking and sexual assault. He has denied those allegations. A major legal win for Donald Trump, a lifeline of sorts in one of his court cases. But as Katie Simpson tells us tonight, that wasn't the only court ruling in a day of legal whiplash for the presidential hopeful.
Where Donald Trump goes, chaos seems to follow. And even by that standard, this day stands out. With both his freedom and finances in jeopardy, 2 separate courts delivered 2 decisions, all in the span of an hour.
And I don't know how you can have a trial that's going on right in the middle of an election. Not fair. Not fair.
A judge confirmed Trump's hush money case will begin with jury selection on April 15th. No more delays.
For better or for worse, this is the case that is going to be the first criminal trial of former President Trump.
Trump is facing more than 30 charges for allegedly hiding payments to women, including a porn star, who say they had affairs with him, all in an effort to prevent a sex scandal during the 2016 election. Trump says he's willing to testify and that all his criminal charges are unfair.
So what they do is they do election interference, which is court cases, and let's try and tie him up and let's take as much of his money as possible.
But when it comes to money, Trump separately scored a big win. Another court ordered his $500 million bond payment from an unrelated civil fraud trial lowered significantly to $175 million, which means his beloved properties will not likely be seized by the state.
The fact that the amount of the bond has been lowered, though, makes it seem much more likely that he will be able to post that bond and that she would not proceed with those measures.
Trump says he can put up the cash in 10 days as required, and even predicted his legal problems will help his re-election bid.
Well, it could also make me more popular because the people know it's a scam.
Trump will be pulled away from the election campaign trail since he is required to physically be in court for his criminal trial. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
In Toronto tonight, a 38-year-old woman is now facing charges after police say her dog attacked a child at a playground, leading to life-altering injuries.
After a few minutes, the dog did release the child, and the woman was last seen fleeing the area.
Police released these images over the weekend, asking the public to help identify her. They say the attack happened in this fenced-in playground and that the dog was off leash. The woman is charged with 5 offenses, including criminal negligence, causing bodily harm. A major development in a police shooting in Ontario that left an 18-month-old boy and his father dead. Criminal charges against 3 police officers are now dropped. Thomas Dagg shows us why, and a warning: you're about to hear disturbing details of how the shooting unfolded that day.
Constable Kenneth Pengelly was one of 3 officers told in court they're no longer facing charges in the shooting death of a toddler.
This has been and was and continues to be a horrible tragedy.
18-month-old Jamison Shapiro was shot 4 times by provincial police as they aimed at his father. In a packed courtroom, the Crown laid out why it's dropping all charges, including manslaughter, telling the judge there would be no reasonable prospect of conviction. Jamison's death was the tragic, unintended consequence of shots fired by the defendants, the prosecutor said, in a genuine situation of self-defense.
It's absolutely been a nightmare for these officers to be facing these kinds of charges.
In November 2020, William Shapiro abducted his young son from this rural Ontario home. Police pursued the suspect, and evidence suggests officers may not have all heard this crucial warning from dispatch.
Just be advised, there's a child in that vehicle. There's a child in the vehicle.
Armed with a handgun, Shapiro rammed his pickup into a police cruiser, critically injuring an officer. Police confronted him with the ensuing gunfire captured here. Court heard officers wouldn't have suspected Jamison was sitting in his father's lap when police unloaded 45 rounds. Both the toddler and the suspect died.
You have somebody that's in a vehicle, for instance. You have less of a target to hit the person. You're probably going to fire more rounds. It's still sad.
Ontario's police watchdog told us the court had access to evidence that wasn't provided to investigators when charges were laid. The accused officers agreed to share their notes taken right after the incident, which helped clear them of wrongdoing. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
We're hearing from baseball's biggest star for the first time since a gambling scandal led to the firing of his interpreter.
This is going to be a protracted investigation that Major League Baseball is going to undertake.
What Shohei Ohtani now says about the allegations coming up. Plus, chocolate prices aren't so sweet heading toward the Easter long weekend.
Prices have gone way up across the board, so yeah, it's a little bit tough for sure.
What's driving up the costs? And later, some espresso, croissant, and hundreds of waiters. The moment a very elegant coffee run returned to the streets of Paris. We're back in 2. A dramatic water rescue in Los Angeles captured on video. You see a first responder grabbing a woman and hoisting her out of the raging river. She was treated for minor injuries and hypothermia at a nearby hospital. It's not clear how the woman ended up in the water. Well, just in time for Easter, some bitter news for chocolate lovers. Cocoa prices have surged, and so has the cost of some holiday treats. Here's Nisha Patel.
This small chocolate maker is facing a bitter reality.
There's been an obvious increase that we're feeling from our suppliers.
The cost of cocoa, the key ingredient in all this chocolate, is way up, and that's showing up on store shelves.
We're struggling to make ends meet without increasing prices to the point where they're no longer affordable.
Cocoa prices have nearly doubled since January, hitting record highs. One big driver, disappointing harvests in West Africa.
Very unseasonal weather patterns, too much rain, not enough rain, but there's also a prevalence of disease.
So even as inflation eases around the world, extreme weather events can still damage crops, leading to huge swings in prices.
Unless we put into action very quickly our climate commitments, we're going to continue to see disruptions to our food systems.
And experts predict the supply shortage may not be over.
Because the expectations are that the 24 crop is going to be even less than the 23 crop was. It's looking pretty bleak.
Take these Cadbury chocolate eggs. Last year, they rang up at $17 a bag. This year, they can cost as much as $22. Major manufacturers that make Cadbury and Hershey chocolates have warned more price hikes may be on the horizon. Consumers could also get less bang for their buck.
Or they're going to look at adjusting package architecture and shrinking pack size a little bit.
Definitely have noticed that the portion sizes are a little bit smaller.
Prices have gone way up across the board, so yeah, it's a little bit tough for sure.
Some companies are swapping cocoa for cheaper substitutes to save cash, but this shop won't go there.
We can't really cut costs on the quality, and we want to keep putting out good quality chocolate.
Hoping that will keep chocolate lovers coming through their door. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
We're hearing for the first time tonight from a star baseball player embroiled in a gambling scandal.
Baseball has always taken these type of things very seriously, whether you are a utility player or you are a star.
What Shohei Ohtani is saying about allegations against his former interpreter. Plus, after a deadly attack in Russia, increased attention to the group claiming responsibility.
The Moscow attack in particular is shifting the narrative.
What CBC News has learned about a possible Canadian connection to ISIS-K. And after the death of Alexei Navalny, Russia's opposition searches for a way forward.
The only way to move the needle of public opinion is Ukrainian success.
Nala Ayed asks prominent critics, what will it take to bring the Putin regime down? The National breaks down the stories shaping our world next.
And that's it, Canada, the Holman Empire, will rule the world. Canada is your Canadian women's curling champion.
What a moment for Canada's Rachel Homan and her teammates, Tracy Fleury, Emma Miskew, and Sarah Wilkes, defeating Switzerland in the final at the World Women's Curling Championship in Sydney, Nova Scotia. It was Canada's first world title, men or women, in 6 years. Homan won the championship last in 2017. Baseball's biggest star says he's setting the record straight about the gambling and theft allegations involving his former interpreter. Shohei Ohtani says he's never bet on baseball or any sport for that matter. But as Jamie Strachan tells us, the story may not be over quite yet.
After days of rumors, innuendo, and shifting narratives, baseball megastar Shohei Ohtani finally spoke publicly through his new interpreter.
So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf. And I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports.
Ohtani says that he is the victim in this story.
I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I'm trusted has done this.
When some $4.5 million in wire transfers from Ohtani's bank account to a California bookmaker were found by federal investigators, as sports gambling is illegal in that state, the initial explanation was the player was paying off interpreter Ippei Mizuharu's debts. That's now changed.
I never agreed to pay off the debt or, make payments to the bookmaker.
But many questions remain. How did Mizuhara access Ohtani's account? And why did a bookie let an interpreter go that far into debt? Major League Baseball is also investigating.
Baseball has always taken these type of things very seriously, whether you are a utility player or you are a star ball player. And so this is going to be, I would imagine, a protracted investigation that Major League Baseball is going to undertake.
It's totally up to you. With sports embracing all aspects of gambling, some say this story is an opportunity to revisit and possibly loosen the rules involving athletes betting on sports.
I think it's time for the league to look at this stuff overall. Everyone else they're under microscope at this point. So I think definitely rules need to change.
This story is still very much in the first inning. For baseball's $700 million man, with opening day just around the corner. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the story shaping our world. How to dismantle Vladimir Putin's regime. His most prominent critics break it down for us.
Putin losing the war. That's our chance.
But first, expert insight into ISIS-K, the group that struck at Russia with deadly terror.
The Moscow attack in particular is shifting the narrative.
Where the attackers came from and what to make of a possible Canadian connection.
It was said that he was from Toronto and living in Laval, Quebec.
For more than a decade, Ben McCoo has been navigating the murky world of groups like ISIS-K. So he's got the goods on why Russia is in its crosshairs and who else it might target.
The latest Moscow attack is widely believed to be linked to the ISIS offshoot based in eastern Afghanistan. Now information has emerged that one of its propagandists claims to be Canadian. CBC News has obtained copies of Voice of Khorasan, the English-language propaganda magazine of ISIS-K, and in it, an author who goes by Suleiman Dawood Al-Kennedy, Arabic for the Canadian. He rails against Muslim men in the West, where I live, would rather put on skinny jeans, fill their faces with food at a Free Syria or Free Palestine fundraiser than commit to fighting for ISIS.
What I found interesting,
a researcher who tracks jihadist groups showed us how he made contact with Al-Kennedy online.
I managed to find him on Tech Heaven, which is the Islamic State server on Rocket Chat, specifically managed by Islamic State supporters. I found that this individual had been active for at least 6 to 8 months.
Valet showed us an inactive Facebook profile that he says reveals the alleged propagandist was from Toronto, but lived in Laval, Quebec. This wouldn't be the first time a Canadian is named as an alleged propagandist for ISIS.
This is a message to Canada. And
Farah Mohammed Shirdan of Calgary was one of its first public voices in 2014. In recent years, ISIS-K has been building up its global operations. Before Moscow, it was Iran, where bombings killed dozens of people.
The Moscow attack in particular is shifting the narrative and awakening the international community to the threat, the scale of the threat that the Islamic State, particularly its Afghanistan branch, faces.
Conflict researcher Lucas Weber also tracked Al-Kennedy.
Do you think the RCMP is aware of this guy, this persona?
Yes, well, it's hard to tell, but the fact that he was able to operate for so long on such a public scale is concerning.
The RCMP has not yet commented to CBC News regarding Al-Kennedy.
So, Ben, some people see this as something of an ISIS comeback, but is that really the case, or is this more of a continuation?
That's the thing, I keep hearing that, and to be honest with you, ISIS never left. What happened was, after this multinational military movement to get rid of the so-called caliphate, a lot of its fighters went to places like Africa and Afghanistan, seizing on places where there was disarray. But also, I think typically terrorist organizations, they like to go to places that are failed states, because that's how you're going to grow, that's how you can train people, and you kind of launch your global ambitions or take over a sliver of land. And that's clearly what's been going on here.
Come back to the possible Canadian connection. Why would it be important for ISIS-K to have a Canadian as a part of the recruitment strategy?
Well, you always want someone natively speaking the language of the types of people you want to recruit. And, you know, ISIS-K and ISIS itself has many different speakers and propagandists who are talking across multiple languages. So in order to speak to the specific grievances and attract the people and what they feel, and in the language they speak, you need to have a native speaker, and that's really what this is.
France has raised its terror alert now to its highest possible level. Is ISIS-K planning any other attacks? Do we know at this point, Ben? And if so, potentially where?
I would say, as a reporter reporting on this, all evidence suggests that ISIS-K has global ambitions to do more attacks. If you look at a thwarted plot in Turkey, a successful attack in Iran that killed almost 100 people, and now you have Moscow, I think it suggests that they have ambitions to strike places in the West as well. And I would assume that the RCMP and CSIS, our spy service, are taking this very, very seriously and are kind of all over it.
Ben, thank you. I appreciate the reporting.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, could the death of Alexei Navalny help turn the tide against Vladimir Putin in Russia?
To convince the Russian people that his leadership is not good for us.
Nahla Ayed speaks to opposition leaders abroad about the struggle for democracy at home. Leading critics of Vladimir Putin tell us how to bring him down now that the biggest opposition voice inside Russia has been silenced.
Navalny was a kind of hope and a kind of example.
The only way to move the needle of public opinion is Ukrainian success.
These well-known Russians who live abroad say defiance works best from outside the country. Nahla Ayed is the host of Ideas on CBC Radio and a longtime foreign correspondent for CBC News. She sought out these conversations as people who resist the Russian regime dealt with a staggering loss.
What if I ask you this? After Navalny, now what? What would you say?
Navalny believed, right or wrong, that the Russian politician must fight in Russia. He paid the highest price for this belief.
After Navalny, opposition figures abroad find themselves at a pivotal moment.
Thank you very much.
We reached out to some of them to ask, how do you unseat Putin and dismantle his regime? Our first stop, of course, was Navalny's network in exile, still intact in Lithuania.
Я буду продолжать дело Алексея Навального, продолжать бороться за нашу с вами страну, и я призываю вас стать рядом со мной.
His wife, Yulia Navalnaya, seems to be taking up the mantle. But a Navalny advisor declined an interview, telling us the hole in their heart is bleeding. Also operating in relative safety abroad is a still disunited array of groups, politicians, and social media influencers. Among the best known is longtime activist Garry Kasparov. Kasparov has been fighting for a democratic Russia for decades, first making his mark as a combative world chess champion, a player who wasn't accustomed to losing. He moved on to become a political activist and was once briefly even a Russian presidential candidate.
We see clear and present danger for current constitution, for our democratic rights.
Then, sensing that danger and a stalemate, he left Putin's Russia just over a decade ago. Speaking with us in Washington just days after Navalny died, Kasparov was not surprised that the Russian opposition's most consequential figure, a man he'd known since the 90s, was no longer. So beyond losing an opposition figure, a very well-known one, what is it that Russia and Russians lost with the loss of Navalny?
The Russia got a martyr. That's very clear. It's like a saga. It's a legend. You know, you have a hero who just decided to make this huge sacrifice. That's how the human history was written. That's how we got things change.
The Navalny was a kind of hope and a kind of example that you can try to fight this system, the systems that don't value human life. You can fight it with a smile on your face.
Maxim Katz is an independent Russian politician, convicted in absentia of spreading fake news about the Russian military, sentenced to 8 years in prison. By then, Katz had already left Russia with his family to Israel. There, he hosts a YouTube channel aimed at Russians with more than 2 million subscribers.
Свою аудиторию, которая меня смотрит каждый день.
Katz is known for having clashed with other opposition figures over his quest to create a united coalition ahead of the election. An idea not universally embraced. Even Navalny himself tweeted, you know, I'll be direct, go to hell with your coalition.
Well, Navalny didn't like coalitions. He liked to be a leader, and I respect this. However, I tried always to say him and his team that now this is the time to make a coalition. In my opinion, every moment that the opposition is not come together is a missed opportunity. In my opinion, is long time before we had to sit in one table, exchange our views on things, come to a position and go as a political group forward.
With each conversation, we start to understand there is no single playbook, no single strategy on some of the biggest questions for the opposition abroad, like how to gain influence among Russians on the inside. With Russia's media dominated by the state, Katz is convinced social media is key to normalizing real open debate and criticism of Putin and his war. What is the role that must be played by people in the opposition who are active outside of Russia?
The main role, in my opinion, is to keep the normal conversation in place and show that a normal way of living in Russia is possible, that challenge Putin's position, that offer different political approach to Russia. And when they hear that this thing is existing, they still have the hope and the understanding that at some point it can come back.
I want to get a sense from you of what you think of ideas like those of Maxim Katz, for example, who says that everyone in the opposition should get together and unite and bombard Russia with messages on every social media channel to let people know that there's a strong opposition on the outside. What do you make of that kind of idea?
Nonsense, absolutely. Okay, it's wishful thinking. Just imagine, and I'm a pretty good speaker. You can have Maxim Katz or even Navalny if he was, by miracle, he was alive. 1 hour prime time on Russian television would achieve nothing. People are just, they're pragmatic. They say, oh yeah, this is guys from they're trying to tell us what's right, what's wrong from London, from New York, from Prague, from Madrid. No, we're here. The only way to move the needle of public opinion is Ukrainian success. Putin losing the war, that's our chance, because Russians could tolerate any hardship if the war is going well. They never forgave their leaders for losing the war.
Kasparov tells us Russians abroad must become the architects of the post-Putin future, that Western countries should make it easier for Putin's critics to leave and build a new Russia on the outside.
We need a matrix of future Russia built outside of Russia. This is the way to move forward. It's a leadership that will attract people to leave Russia. They are people involved in military industry by designing missiles, drones, doing finances. This is the core of Putin's war machine. He can evade sanctions. He can find, supply from Iran, China, North Korea. He cannot replace even 100,000 engineers and computer experts. So give them a chance to leave.
In the absence of credible elections, it would be an opportunity for dissenting Russians to vote with their feet. Katz believes the key is persuading Russians to dissent in the first place. What is it going to take to dismantle Putin's leadership and his regime?
We need to convince the Russian people. We need to convince the Russian people that his leadership is not good for us. This is the only way. Putin never ruled in Russia without the support of at least 50% of Russians. And this was a feeling. Everybody feel in Russia that he has the support. And if we will break this feeling, then everything will change. I think this is the effort. We need to put our effort here. And I try to do it.
I think it is a sign that they're afraid. Because if you are not afraid of anything, then you don't kill a person who spent his past years in a dark cell. So if they're afraid, then probably there is a weakness that maybe we don't see, but that they feel.
Sergei Lagodinsky left Russia for Germany as a child. Now he's a German member of the European Parliament who once tried to persuade other European lawmakers to press for Navalny's release. A young Lagodinsky met Navalny when both were World Fellows at Yale in 2010. From Berlin, he told us his role now, the role of the West, is to support Russian opposition waiting abroad.
Something that Germany is doing, introducing humanitarian visa that allow people to come to Germany if they are threatened, and very many people are threatened, making it easier that people have those visas while they're active in Russia, so that they know that they can escape at the moment when the police is knocking at their doors.
Those who are in the diaspora. Can you speak about it in terms of unification? It has tended to be fairly divided.
It might be a chance for awakening and for uniting among different opposition forces. But if we are talking about political pluralism in Europe and about the assets of political pluralism, then we have to respect the plurality of opposition voices from Russia.
Even without him, Navalny's organization is still best positioned to rally the disparate groups in pursuit of Navalny's beautiful Russia of the future. Even with their differences, there's enough common ground to suggest it is possible.
So it seems to me the oppositions are getting closer, and I believe that Navalny's death would be a catalyst to bring people together. You can sense history. And also, yeah, there's so much blood has been spilled, but this is, this cold-blooded murder, it's in public. I think it's a lot of people recognize that might be a turning point. I think this murder may be the last drop for them.
In other words, the hope is that, dark as this moment is, it may well be how the Russia of the future begins.
Nahla Ayed did those interviews before the concert attack near Moscow that killed at least 139 people. You just saw Garry Kasparov in her piece. He's been quite outspoken on social media and in the Wall Street Journal. He accuses the Kremlin of exploiting the crisis domestically and abroad, although many key facts remain unclear. Up next, a joyful tradition returns to Paris as waiters take it outside.
At this moment, I can't fall down, I can't.
We're going to butter you up for our moment just ahead. Talk about breakfast to go. In Paris, France, the return of a cherished tradition. Waiters racing through the city holding high trays of espresso and croissant. It's the first time the race has been held in 13 years, and one contestant, Pauline Van Mimège, wasn't about to waste her big chance. She took home the title as the fastest female server, and tonight, she makes our moment.
My name is Pauline. I run the rest of the waiters in Paris. It's called La Course des Garçons de Café. We have one croissant, one espresso café, but it's an empty cup, and we have a glass of water. But you don't have to break anything, and you have your colleague, your friend around you, and everyone want to be more faster. It's not an easy job. It's strong physically and morally. There is a little bit of a wind in the 2 kilometers. I think of all my all the experience that I have since 20 years, and I don't want to at this moment I can't fall down. I can't. It's great for me that I win. It was a recognition of my work, my job.
Let them eat croissant. It's the breakfast of champions in Paris. Too bad it's a little too late to add that event to the program for the 2024 Olympics this summer. That is the National for this Monday night. For all of us here, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Heather Hiscox. Good night.